Hello and welcome to the Come Alive podcast. I'm your host, Mehermir Chandani. I'm a mother with a story, a business leader with a vision, and a leadership coach with a mission to transform lives and businesses. I am dedicated to empowering 10x growth in fellow humans by unlocking the transformative power of self-connection. I'm happy to announce a unique collaboration with YPO MENA and Regional called Every Journey Has a Story to Tell. It's a 24-episode podcast series of inspiring YPO members. If you'd like to be on the show, please do reach out to me and I'd love to host you. So today on this Come Alive podcast, I have Nael Mustafa. He is the Chief Executive Officer of GFH Partners, where he is responsible for developing and executing the firm's global real estate investment strategy. With over 30 years of experience in investment banking and real estate investments, Nael has covered areas of capital markets, corporate finance, as well as Sharia-compliant alternative investments in North America and Middle East. Nael is a CFA charter holder and holds an MBA from the University of Edinburgh. Currently sits on several boards and is passionate about sports, reading, and is an active member of the YPO Bahrain chapter. He is a father of 4 children. So thank you, Nael, for joining me today on this special podcast for YPO. I'm super excited to start our conversation.
My pleasure.
So tell me a little bit about your journey with GFH. What does authentic leadership mean to you and what do you bring to the table?
So I joined GFH right smack in the middle of COVID. Actually, at the beginning of COVID, it was July of 2020. And the notion then was to come in, join an organization that in and of itself was an organization that went through its own journey of early establishment, a lot of success, some difficulties, and then some changes, and then a rebirth of some sorts into a bigger, more established, more institutional, global organization. So I joined at that time with the responsibility of building and adding to the activities GFH had in the real estate business. GFH, for those who don't know, is an investment organization that deploys capital in real estate, private equity, regionally and globally, and then syndicates to investors. And by that, I mean invites investors to come in and participate into those investments. So the real estate aspect or part of the business is obviously one that was an important part of the business. And the notion or the responsibility was to help build it to an even greater level. So I joined and I had ideas that matched what the group CEO had in his mind at the time, which is how can we make this global? How can we make it differentiated? How do we convert it from what is in our lingo an investment management business, meaning you buy something and you just manage it, to an asset management business, which is, apologies for the technical terms, but it's where you build a quantum of assets under management that is growing. You manage it in a way that is globalized, standardized, and gain not just the profit out of it, but also gain the clients and the investors' attention and respect as well as trust. So our journey was successful, brought in the ideas of how do we gain credibility. It's by hiring the right people, building the right teams, having the right associations, the right partnerships, so that when you present a thought or an idea or a concept to investors, that they would look at it with appreciation and they would trust their money with you. Besides that, And obviously that trickles down into how you do your business, what areas do you deploy money in, why, what are the fundamentals driving behind them, because it's always very easy in our business to go sit with people and try to pitch an idea. And investors many a time will look at you, and in many cases they will not tell you what's in their mind, but what's in their mind is, so you're sitting here in front of me, you're a regional, local organization, you must have read a report on your way to the meeting, or yesterday you watched some clip on YouTube, or you heard something and you're just rehashing it. Some do say it, some will have it in their minds. So the idea is to then go and have the conviction and have the ability to say, this is what I think you should deploy, this is a good idea. In potentially accepting your money, this is how we have the best chance of returning the money with the potential return that you have. And we've done that through acquiring stakes in managers, both regional and international, that have pedigree, that have a base on the ground, that have the ability to say, I've done this before 1 million times. This is why, for the first time after the million, I'm more than comfortable to deploy your money and return it. So that's been the journey so far. And, nothing in life is easy. But it's a challenge, and I love challenge. I love the challenge of people looking at, the organization saying, but you can't compete with X, Y, or Z international names. And what I tell the team every single day is that, it's year 5 now. By year 10, we want to be the largest manager of real estate that is domiciled outside the US and Europe.
Amazing.
It's a challenging objective. And they always ask, so how much? How much money does that mean? How much money does it mean in terms of size? And in our business, it's always about assets under management, about AUM.
Correct.
And I refuse to put a number because
that's interesting.
In putting a number, you kind of already mentally establish a ceiling. And if you're ambitious and if you have aspirational targets, there should be no target. But in achieving that, it means that you need to strive for excellence in everything that you do, in how you start from what you do, who you hire, how you manage the team, how the team conveys the message, how you transact, materials that you give, introductions, communication. I mean, it's a whole gamut of things that has to be done. And if I were to summarize leadership in one thing, it's when I was growing up, I thought leadership, or even studying for undergraduate degree, I thought leadership is you have to be good enough to tell people what to do. And in reality, leadership is completely the opposite. Is just being genuine enough and honest enough to tell people, I don't know everything, and I need your help. Help me to do this. Help me to do that. And by doing that, you admit that you're not there to let me tell you how it's done. It's none of that. It's really, let's figure out a way together to get this done. I may know something in this part, or a lot of things in a couple of parts. You have a skill, you have a talent, you have something that makes us a bit more capable to achieve that objective. So that's kind of
That's beautiful. That's like empowering people to be their best, to be their best version with you in leadership. Oh my God, I so believe in this as well. In our company also, I believe that, we cannot know everything. There's so much knowledge in this world. And it's so important to respect people and understand that every human is resourceful. They are whole, they are complete. And it's not about the ego. It's about where we are going and how we are going and how we can make it happen.
Correct.
So the journey is more joyful for everyone. And you said it so well. It's amazing. And to be able to even admit that to yourself and to your team members, I think that shows so much more strength than we think.
Yeah. And you mentioned one word there, which is, for me is, whether it's on the personal side or on the professional side, is that the word journey. And, so many times, especially, and I talk to my kids and new people that we hire who are, with 2-3 years of experience. And everyone's perception of career, of life, is that it's ultimately that straight line. You start here, you grow and you grow and you grow and you grow. But you know, and I know that is never the case. And the concept of the journey is very important, because the concept of the journey means what? That in any journey, there's a starting point, there's an end point, correct. But in between, there are ups and there are downs and there are setbacks, and there are sometimes you make forward leaps and sometimes you take backward leaps, self-imposed or circumstance or market imposed. But you just have to believe that, or develop the skill set to navigate that.
Correct.
And not to be thrown back. And this is another thing about, if one can call it leadership, is that you have to expect that there will be negatives. You have to expect that there will be setbacks. It doesn't mean that you are in any way less capable or weaker or you've done something wrong. It's part of our painful personal and professional growth process.
I love this. I so love this. In fact, today I wrote a blog and I shared it on LinkedIn, talking about, sometimes you just want to give up because the challenges become so tough and you feel, oh my God, you've done so much. But even then you have so many challenges to look at and overcome.
Yep.
In our journey, sometimes you feel that. But then again, be resilient, be positive, be motivating, because it's not only about yourself, but it's also about the life you're leaving behind for your children. Correct. Or for generations to come. Correct. And someone is always watching, kind of as you being the inspiration to you, to others. Like it's like your family members or your kids. Like I have twin girls and they always look up to me. And oh mom, you do so well. They really encourage me with whatever little I do in my life. And they were like, and I think that really sets the tone for future generations. And then it's your parents. They see you authentically leading the family business. They feel happy. They feel proud. They're always people related to us who we are serving indirectly or directly.
Right.
And at least for that immediate set of people and for your own journey, you should not give up. And that's the article I wrote, because I was just thinking about the past year with me as well, personally. And you said it so well that actually it inspired me that the journey is not going to be straight. It's going to be with turns and curves and backs and forwards. But the point is we must carry on and we must keep leading.
Exactly. And, this is, I have this discussion with my daughter sometimes, eldest daughter, as, she goes, stop telling me about all these books and, podcasts to listen to about positivity. Let me go through my own process of emotions of feeling bad and depressed sometimes. I tell her, listen, it's not about, to expect that someone would not feel down or low is just not being realistic. Whatever I'm telling you is not because, there's a button or there's a pill or there's a magic formula that you can do, and you will never go through that emotion. It's only natural to feel so. But you have to have the ability to wake up, look at yourself in the mirror. I go to Barry's, the workout, regularly.
Barry's bootcamp.
And on the mirror, actually, in the washroom, they have this very small quote, which I love. And it says, I can, I will, watch me. And I love it because, and this is what I was telling my daughter the other day, is that, you have to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, things are difficult, things are not the way I want them to be, and they will never be all the time. But I have the ability to overcome this. Maybe it's time you have to wait for, maybe it's things that you have to do, maybe it's help that you need, maybe it's just sucking it in terms of the difficulty, and then being able to overcome it and doing whatever is needed to do it. But nothing is life, and life is easy, and we hope that kind of mindset is the one you adopt.
Beautiful, and that's so true. We should not give up. I mean, this is such a beautiful life, and we must definitely persist and be resilient in our journey, and that's beautiful. So you have 4 children.
I do.
That's a journey on its own. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so how do you, I love to ask this question, so how do you balance? I know you travel a lot. I know that you are managing a huge company, and with family, with YPO, with so personal, like you mentioned, you like to work out, you are adventurous and athletic. So how do you manage and how do you balance it all?
I would love to tell you that I've unlocked that formula, But I try, and that trial is based on a number of things. So number one, I believe in utilizing your day. So I like to wake up early. I like to get my workout and you know, in our culture, my prayer, my meditation in the earlier part of the day. That sets me up for the day. So physically, mentally, getting the frustration out through physical workout helps, and sets the body and the mind for whatever is gonna come during the day.
Absolutely.
These days with communication, it's as a parent, and we were talking about it before, as a parent, it's natural to expect that I want to call my daughter or my son, and spend time talking to them on the phone, or because they're studying abroad or working, but it's not the case. So you have to do with sometimes what is practical. So keeping in touch means voice notes and messages and tagging them on things that I want to inspire, or things that are remind us of a trip we just recently taken. So that communication and the manner of that communication is important. I think is that especially with kids these days, the language they use, the terminology they use, the things that they watch are and they change.
So different. Yeah.
So I don't want to say it's a challenge, but it's something that you have. I work on to try to keep in touch, so that, and of course they make fun. Oh, you don't know, and you're old school.
Always, they help me pronounce words. They're like, "Mama, this is not the right way to pronounce."
Exactly.
And no, this is not right. And they're 12 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing to see how they all do it, I guess.
Exactly. So the other day with my 12-year-old, because I read some, or watched something that they use this terminology called, one of the words they use, drip. And I said, oh, this plate we ordered at the restaurant is drip. He said, you're so embarrassing. This is not the right way to use it. You use drip for uniforms, costumes, makeup, not this. I said, okay, we learn. But, it's an effort to keep that. We also talked before we started today about, or you mentioned about parents, for me, visiting my mom, because she, my father passed away 2 years ago. I make sure that is also part of my day. Sometimes it's a call, sometimes it's a message, sometimes it's visiting to the extent I can. Can you satisfy all what you want to do in any one particular day? Obviously not, but you try. At the end of the day, it's if we only live just to go and do our jobs, whether physically or remotely or virtually, then I think that's, no matter how fulfilling, it's still not delivering what we are there for. One of the things that made me feel so proud, last week my mom went to a wedding, and she met, and the bride happened to be, and I didn't know this, she happened to be the daughter of a classmate of mine, who I haven't seen for probably 30-40 years. And the mother, who was my classmate, was talking to mother, and she said, oh, you're Nael's mom. Oh, and then she was full of praise. I don't know why, but she was full of praise. And my mom came and said, I'm so proud whenever I hear somebody saying something good about you. It's very small,
yes,
but very powerful.
It's important.
So it made me realize that sometimes just by giving your parents that sense or that feeling of, I've accomplished through my offspring, I've accomplished through my kids, that also is part of what we're there. So you try, and then the other bit is, again, part of whether day, week, month, we are not there to live in a capsule called me, whether it's work, family, kids, friends, interests. There is the bigger circle,
ecosystem, and
the
family.
Exactly. So what are we doing to help the people, help the environment, help the society? There has to be an element of things we do that is beyond the self. So again, I go back to you try, you put all this, whether mentally and in reminders in your calendar and in whatever system that works, and you try to do as much as you can.
That's beautiful, and that's so beautiful. But do you have tips to be a great parent or manage in such a high power job and having children? Do you have for me, every Saturday, I try my best. No meetings, no phone. I do a little bit of yoga in the morning. I do my meditation. And then the whole day is relaxed for the kids, for my twins. I don't set play dates for them because I'm this is the day I'm available, present, and engaged with them. So that once a week, I feel I have that for them. Is there something you plan so you're able to achieve that time with them?
Not on a daily or weekly basis, to be frank, but I've found that activities or interests. So with 4 kids, they will have different interests. So with some, it's with my daughter who's doing interior design, it's spending time talking about a dress that she saw and she liked and she designed, or a picture that of a place, a hotel, a new style of furniture we spend time talking about it. With one, it's about sports. So my eldest is crazy mad about football and Formula One. So whenever there is something to do, a race or a football game, talking about it, watching it together is that. So it's finding those activities.
Their interests.
That is their interest. And they are way smarter than us. They will figure out if you're faking the interest.
So true.
So it's it also is important to actually genuinely be interested and not just because these days wanting to come, okay, let's go for a walk and talk. I mean, it's at least in my case, none of them are interested. Let's just go have coffee, which is what we as adults would find very interesting. For them, it's they find it of little value, not of little value spending time with the parent, but little value doesn't let them engage.
The activity doesn't count with them.
But when it's things, I mean, with my son who's a movie buff, watching a movie and talking about the movie afterwards, we could spend an hour talking about the movie and you'll see him engaged and loving the conversation. And then try to talk to him about something else. He switches off. So it's finding these things.
Understanding your kids and understanding their interests, but that's so mindful. That I think that's what's conscious parenting about in today's time. Exactly. It's about being able to connect with them on their level, on their interests. And I think that's what makes a great father. So thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful. So with over 3 decades of experience, what drives you and keeps you going on every single day?
When we started talking about the challenge, going back in my career, even when we started, there is always this conception in our part of the world that the expertise that comes from outside the region, and I'm including this region, MENA and Southeast Asia, because we're all one part, the expertise that comes, whether it's from Europe or from North America or other parts, is more capable, is more informed, and I've faced this in a number of situations. So one challenge throughout this journey that we talked about has always been not just to demonstrate for others, but also to demonstrate to myself that you're capable of A, meeting those expectations, and B, exceeding those expectations. So one thing that drives me constantly, besides wanting to be, as an organization, as a team, as a business, wanting to be the best or the largest, is also ensuring that you meet and exceed expectations of standard of care, standard of service, professionalism, and proving that we are not just capable, that we can and we will. Coming back to that notion.
Yes.
So that has been one of the things that's for me. It
so pushing your
me.
own boundaries to
Yes.
become a better version of yourself at life, business, everything, and like you said, that I've also noticed that most of your team is also Bahraini.
Correct.
And so that's amazing. So you want to make sure that you're consciously leading this, that it's not about hiring from outside and then trying to be bigger or better
Correct.
because of how the society views it, but it's more about believing in yourself and believing in your team and from where you come and building that very best
Yeah, exactly.
business.
Exactly. And that has kind of ripple effects, because these people that you hire and you give opportunity to, and they're good people, but I mean, because they would have studied at the best universities or even had experience, internationally. It's like a ripple effect. They themselves become, other pockets of delivering excellence and building excellence, personal and professional. So that challenge, I would call, if one can call it a challenge, has been a major driving force. The second is just, and we talked about it, is that you have to wake up every morning and validate your existence, validate why you're waking up in the morning. It cannot just be for material things, and it cannot just be for personal things, but taking work as an example, the driver is to be the largest, the best, the most profitable, the most rewarding, the most responsible. There are so many metrics, and there isn't enough time of the day or the month or the year. So that by itself is a challenge. So how much of all these metrics of excellence can you hit? Because I believe is that if we all, this is something my father used to always teach me: you aim for an A, you get a B. You aim for a B, you get a C or a D. So for aiming for the absolute best ensures that you come as close as possible to. You may meet it, or you might come close to it, but at least then that's what's driving you. So between the personal and professional, these are the two, I'd say, driving forces for me.
So you did mention it cannot be only for materialistic things. And when I was going through my transformation, I also wrote that I call the materialistic things as painkillers. Initially, when we are in our 20s and 30s, what we are taught is we have to get a house, we have to get a car, we have to get some diamonds, we have to get some a bank balance or whatever, a good bank account in a good bank. We have to get a heavy bank account in a good bank. So we were taught this in school, right? Because those were the success metrics.
Right.
But now that we have evolved, and at this age, what, besides, of course, the business part that you said you'd like to be the best and serve the best your community and through hiring Mubarenis and all that, what else is your why, like Simon Sinek says?
Mm-hmm. I think the why really is you have to be an element of good in the circle that you are in. Now that circle can be very, very small. It's just an element of good for myself. I do well for myself, whether that is material things, whether that's health, whether that's family, is just. But then there's a bigger circle, the circle that involves your business, your work, whether it's family business or not family business, and how that then helps the area of influence that it has. And then there's a bigger circle of people, parts of life that you have to influence, people of need, the environment, and we live in times that it's regrettably so, but there's constantly pain, constantly misery, in some part of the world, sometimes close, sometimes far. You just can't be oblivious to that. You just can't turn a blind eye and shrink your circle of influence to just yourself. So the trips and the dinners and the clothes and the cars and the yachts, all that, if that's what delivers happiness, then I feel you're only focusing on maybe 5-10% of the potential. I mean, I'm sure we all went into that experience where we have helped someone and we found that helping that experience is so rewarding, is so
that money can't buy.
Positive, that money can't buy.
That's so true.
What we talked about at seeing that satisfaction from a parent about something you've done, how can you value that? Watching your kids learn, even though they hate to admit it, learn from you one thing or another. and seeing them, succeed, and manage their life. How can you value that? Buying this dress or that or suit or whatever it is, that has a value, and it's vanishing value.
Yes.
You buy it, you get that instant gratification, but
Correct.
then the minute it's done.
Correct. Yes, absolutely, very true, and very well said. That I think it's about being able to increase your impact and influence over time, and being able to contribute more to larger circles of life and humanity. That's so beautiful. How has YPO, you've been in YPO Bahrain, and now you've joined the MENA 1 chapter as well. How has YPO shaped your thought process, your outlook, and of course even GFH having their ties in the US and things like that? How is like the global influence shaped your outlook, your parenting, your life now?
We all know how amazing the organization is. Amazing in the sense that the amount of tools and platforms that you can tap into for various things, from parenting to work to hobbies, and I won't waste everyone's time talking about that. But one thing that really resonated in me is trust. The amount of times that I've been told, okay, I'll do this because you're a YPOer. I will help you in this, or I'll do this, or I'll facilitate that for you because you're a YPOer. Or if you send me something, whatever it is, proposal, question, I will handle it with a lot of attention because you're a YPOer. That carried a lot of weight for me, and not just that it's been very helpful, but it also reflected is that the organization managed to build this thing that if someone is part of this family, is part of this organization, then they have a certain behavioral characteristic, element of genuine character that you should trust them.
Amazing. Yes, that's so true.
That for me is the most important thing, because I can sit and tell you about the networks and the forums and how we all benefited in one way or another from them, but I think everyone who's a member has already experienced it in one way or the other. But that credibility, that trust angle, to be able to gain it by just being a member, also puts a responsibility on you.
Correct.
If someone I don't know, and this is a real life example, someone I haven't ever met in Dallas, send him a question, answers me back, connects us with a multi-million-dollar transaction, just because he trusts the fact that because I'm a YPOer, then I carry a certain level of genuine credibility, and then the responsibilities you have to deliver.
Yeah,
because you have to do the same to other YPOers.
That's beautiful, and that's so true. I know you're on my podcast because of the same reason. No, that's so true. I think, yes, it helps us conduct ourselves in a certain way. And it does. The organization has so much trust among itself and authenticity. And yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, none of the other members have expressed it that way, but that's a great perspective. So thank you so much for that. So what values do you live by, and what are the values you instill in the company and your children?
I think, as we were just saying, I think the most important thing to try to deliver, I call it just being a genuine person. And this is what because as you know, we live in an age or time where it's very easy to be drawn into a lot of superficial. Social media plays a big role in that. Whatever platform of social media it is plays a big role in that. Everything is about instant gratification. Everything is about that short. We don't want to watch anything more than 5-10 minutes. Everything we want to be serialized or compartmentalized, so that it's in snippets and bullets. To the extent where it's now very difficult to really see people really spending time whether with themselves or with their work or with their studies, to actually, build something. And this is the discussion, I have again with my team members, and how much time do you actually spend to build your skill? And I don't mean go learn to do financial modeling, and I don't mean going and learning the technicals, but you have to be at work, you have to be a well-rounded person, because our work is investment, and investment doesn't happen in a vacuum. Politics affect it, geography affects it, environment affects it, small and big topics affect it. So you have to build that awareness, so that when you're having a discussion, when you're analyzing something, you're analyzing it with that in mind. That builds better in our business, better professionals. Same thing at home with my kids, is that you just can't be one-dimensional. If you're one-dimensional, you're a boring person. Can't talk to you only about Formula One forever. So there has to be an element of other aspects. So how do you build that charisma, interest, depth, and character, so that when people are talking to you at one level, they feel that there's a human in there and not a TikTok clip. And secondly, by building that human, you begin to tap into all these things that we talked about. Because if you read about history, or if you read about politics, and if you read and understand the misery that some people are in, if you're a human being like 99% of the population is, then you'll feel something, right? You'll feel maybe they need to help, maybe the gratitude because you're not suffering like they do.
Yeah.
It starts to peel off this, whether it's the materialistic aspects or the social media aspects. Unfortunately, that affect a lot. So building character is how I would encourage. And again, not that I've done that to completion. It's a constant process, and that's the other thing. It's just you can't stop.
Absolutely. But that's beautiful. So in my second book, I mention the power of self-connection. And of course, even in my first book, it is how you connect with yourself, and which enhances your human ability to connect with others on a human level.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that so beautifully. And in the words I think people understand better, is that you have to build your character, you have to build your awareness. And I feel the relationship that we have with ourselves determines the quality of every other relationship in life. And once you build that, automatically your awareness improves, your connection improves with people, because you're improving the connection with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your take on that? Have you tried to improve the relationship you have with yourself? How do you do that?
I wish there was a manual somebody gives you early on, but I think
So
and I think we all go through this, is that you go through a problem or you go through a situation at work, at home, and sometimes if that situation is negative, it's only natural. You feel down, you beat yourself up. I made a mistake, I didn't do the right thing, I should have done. And I think one thing that, again, along this journey you should develop, or one should develop, is this ability to not just look back with a sense of beating myself up. I shouldn't have done this. And what was the thought process that drove me to make that decision, or to make that action, or not to make that decision and not to make that action?
So a lot of reflection.
And what went wrong into that thinking process? How can I improve my thinking? And for me, it's all about how you think. How can you improve your thinking process going forward? Because if we sit and talk about something that went wrong, can you change it? No. Can you press a button and undo it? Again, no. So what's the point? So the only point can be is that part of it, people tell you have to pay the price for it. What is paying the price? Self blame is not gonna do anything. So the price, in my opinion, is looking at what went wrong. How can you avoid it in the future? How can you improve, whether your thinking process, your reaction, the circumstances that led into maybe it's people you met, maybe people you interacted with, maybe it's places you've been to, maybe it's activities you engaged with that all resulted in that. Maybe it's shortcomings in things that you should have done but you didn't. How can you avoid that going forward? I think that's the proper price paying or proper way of addressing things.
And learning from them.
So and sometimes you have to learn the same lesson more than once,
multiple times,
in order for it to resonate.
Yes, I so believe so. As a coach, I do mention this to my clients that sometimes patterns repeat themselves until you don't get the lesson, until you don't learn that lesson. You will be faced with the same challenge. Once you learn the lesson, the challenge will disappear.
Correct.
So,
absolutely.
So tell me about one challenge that was like this for you, and how did you overcome it?
So in 2012, I got post the global financial crisis, I got this urge to start a personal business. As a backup, because the financial industry went through a big shakeup, so I wanted to start something that becomes a backup. And I started a food business for my sins. I always say that sentence. Initially successful, but then that business went into difficulty for a number of reasons. Because number one, I'm an investor and an investment manager. You get involved into operation, it requires a different mindset. You can't open a business and then sit in the office and get a report daily, weekly, monthly, analyze it and say, oh, this is where the issue is. You have to be in the trenches. I didn't do that. I didn't know that. And to cut a long story short, that business after 3-4 years was closed. Cost me a lot of money, to the point where it cost me almost all of my savings and all of my personal wealth. And obviously you get drawn into, why did I do that? Why, what prompted it? I could have not done this. I could have not done that. But then that spiral puts you in a position where, okay, so now what do? I have to refocus on what I do best. I have to refocus on how to rebuild from there. I have to learn that sometimes the attraction of what person X did and made him or her or them successful is not necessarily the right formula for you. So what works for you? And then number 3, and that's when I really learned that material things are the easiest things to lose. Sometimes they're very difficult to get, but the easiest to lose is material things. And if that's what your attachment, imagine if all what you are is about material things, and you lose that for whatever reason, your fault, not your fault, market, global, whatever it is. What happens? So that you cease to be a person, right?
Yeah.
Which cannot be the case. So you are way beyond that concept. You're way beyond and we have in our culture, again, language that and I'm sure in all languages they have the same proverbs or sayings about money comes and money goes. But what doesn't come and go is you.
Your character, your
resilience. So that was a very, because it obviously losing that much money has its strain on the family, on how you even start to look at things. It has its impact on what you can offer. I mean, you do all this at the end of the day for yourself, but your family. And if you cannot deliver, that amount of self-blame is very hard to take.
Yeah. So and it does shatter the self-belief at some point, at some level, and then you have to rebuild it, right?
Not at some level. It shatters it completely, because you start doubting.
Yeah.
Am I really good enough? How can I say I'm so good in investment and then I, for myself, go and do that big of a mistake and lose all that? So hitting rock bottom when you've lost the money, you've lost the self-confidence, you become the talk of the town from amongst your friends, sometimes in front of you, sometimes behind your back. Picking up yourself from that is not an easy process.
Absolutely.
But it's the most valuable experience I've ever been in. Once you've been there, and I'm sure others have gone through worse, but at least for me, from a personal experience, that was the point where you say, I cannot be only that. I cannot be only about the money. I cannot be.
So it was transformative for you.
It was transformative for me.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. That's so important to know that, how people go through the dip and how they come out and what they learn.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful.
YPO forums.
Absolutely. I think it also teaches us how to be authentic and open up, and that we know that people are not judging. Judgment is only in our head. And when we share these real stories, it's only about learning and teaching other people, or rather they getting value out of it.
Absolutely. See, you mentioned something, again, one of the, I think, lessons along this journey is that we always look at people in front of us and we feel that, I have this issue in my background, in my history, in my career, in my personal relationships, and I want to keep it hidden. I want to, because look at her in front of me, I'm sure she's perfect or he's perfect. And then you learn that every face is a window, and behind that window there are stories. Some are shared, some are not shared. And then you begin to see that what you have is actually not that bad. Or what you have shied from sharing is not that bad. Not because it's not a big problem or a small problem, it's just because you shouldn't be shy of opening up and being transparent, because admitting is part of, at that time about this experience, I used to be shy to say I lost money. Now, it's not that I don't care, but I'm taking pride in the fact that I did lose the money. I will not do it again, but I'm happy to admit it.
Yeah. When I was writing this book, I was extremely vulnerable. I was like, should I talk about my life and my challenges? What went inside my head? Should I not? And even when I wrote it, a lot of people were like, oh my God, you actually put down a lot. And this is probably just like 5% of what I went through the book. But I think it really gives you the courage to speak, so you add value in life.
Exactly.
So thank you so much for sharing so authentically. And thank you for coming on this podcast.
A pleasure.
Greatly appreciate your time, and it was such a valuable conversation. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for watching this episode of the Come Alive podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell on whichever platform you're hearing it. Would love to hear your thoughts and comments. And until next time, see you soon.